What's that like?
What's going on, people? Hey, it's another edition of the What's That Like podcast, and I'm your host, John Knowles. It's episode 4 of season 4, and the guest that you've been waiting for is back, the one, the only, Zach Wygal. What's going on, my brother?
Oh, when you said the one they've been waiting for, I'm like, oh, is someone else coming? You know,
No, it's you. It's you.
Hey, things are going great. Back on the show, back on the What's That Like podcast, the Mega Powers. I've been waiting for this. I love the new format, man, with the video, and it's just been, this season has been great. Even when you had Brad Skirtich on,
yeah,
it was good.
He was good.
I'll give credit where credit is due.
Yeah, it's good.
That's been my favorite episode so far.
Nothing wrong with that. We're building up, and I've got an entire list of folks we're going to get to, and I think we'll probably make you something semi-regular here with a format. We got to come up with what it is, but we're going to have you back. But seriously, Zach, I mean, when you think about the What's That Like podcast, you've been bugging me to do it for 4 years. And I got to thank you for keeping the bug in my ear. It let me know that people wanted it to happen, because I don't make any money at this. Do you see a sponsor anywhere on the screen? I don't.
Well, that's not a Stamp Out Cancer sponsor. Just a poster.
Just a poster back there.
Okay.
But no, it's people like you, people I've seen on the street. And it's really, since the start of the year, it seemed like everybody was asking me, when are you bringing it back? So I brought it back for all of you. And I really appreciate the thoughts to have us come back and do this. And you were number 1 on my list, number 4 on the episode list, but number 1 on the list of people I wrote down, brother.
Well, we had to get, everyone through the kinks. And then
and kinks we've had. Yes.
It's funny you say that.
So last night, I'll tell the truth. Last night, Zach came over. He was the first in-studio guest for the new season in the new studio. And truth be told,
beautiful studio. I love the studio.
I botched the entire thing. The audio dropped and it was bad. So I called Zach back and I said, can we do this again? So number 1, thank you for doing this a second night in a row for the fans.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, so I'm was what, my 7th time? Sometime?
Yep.
But can it be, does that count as 8 if I already did an episode that didn't work?
Sure. What do you get what do you get for 7 or 8? What do you get?
Well, 7, I think I get a street sign named after me.
Okay.
But it's like outside of your house. 8, last time I heard, is that I get my own customized Matchbox car. And you don't see those much anymore, but it's like, I mean, it's small, but it's like commemorative. Like there's only, going to be like X, so many of them made. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
See if we can make that happen. Zach, let's move on. People want to hear what you got going on. So 4 years ago, you were on the show. It was March 2020. Since then, a lot's gone on. A pandemic happened. Let the fans know what's been going on with Zach.
I did a lot of things. Well, not at first. The pandemic was actually kind of a blessing for me because when you're running around, 90 miles an hour, doing a bunch of things, it was nice to sit back and be calm. And be forced to sit there and watch movies and play video games, things that sometimes I don't have time for. And that was good for about 9 weeks. And then you're like, okay, can we get back to life? But right before then, I was getting into improv. I got asked to do held at gunpoint to do a murder mystery by Susan Collins. Should have on the show. She's an actor, or she was an actress, acting coach. Her husband does stuff in Hollywood still.
I'm writing her name down. I think I know who she is.
Susan
yes.
Collins.
Okay.
Susan Collins.
Be ready, Susan. Yeah. You're coming up. Go ahead.
And she's a character too. You guys will laugh your butt off when you start talking. But anyway, she got me into doing that, but then they also conned me into doing improv. And we had one show. It was an opera house right before the pandemic. And so I got that bug in me. And I'm like, this is kind of fun. Improv, it takes you out of your comfort zone. Even a ham like myself that was class clown, I'd never done anything like that before. It's always just, cracking jokes at the bar or something. So that happened. Pandemic happened. They kept having practice, but I just stopped going. I think I don't know. I wasn't feeling it. I just wasn't. Maybe I wasn't ready to be cheerful and sure, because I'm like, we're not going to be able to perform anywhere. So what's anyway? I didn't go. And then as time lapsed. So, but coming back from the pandemic, it was just last year. Right around when I had my fire, I forgot I had that too.
You had a fire in your house.
Fire
yeah, we can't forget that. Yeah.
I was a nomad, and it just happened to be that I was living across the street from the Grand Theater, so I didn't have far to go. And Susan was like, "Hey, I got a play I want you to be in." And I'm thinking background person, nothing much there. I show up to one of their practices for improv. She puts a script on my lap. R.R. Gurney, I think it's who wrote it, but it's called Love Letters. It's been performed a lot of places with some awards. And I open it up and I notice there's characters, a guy and a girl, and I'm like, Susan, there's only a guy and a girl here. And she goes, yeah, you're the guy. Okay. But she had me read with Mandy Hopper, and Mandy Hopper had already been with the improv troupe. And I kind of knew her. I mean, I knew her husband more, grew up with him. But we read, and there was chemistry. Actors use that word, and I get it now. There was chemistry. And so things went over great. I ended up reading the entire script after we got done with that read, and I fell in love with it. It was a love story of their entire life, a guy and a girl, starting when they're younger to when they're older. And when it came to the night to actually perform, in which we worked our butt off, I took it seriously. I really did. I took it seriously, took notes. I went to a lot of just or 2-on-1 practice. Susan working with just her and I. And I will say, I couldn't see myself doing it with anybody but Mandy. Like we just, it worked. I mean, the entire night. And you knew it was a good job because you're sitting on stage and you just see lights, and that's really it. And you can hear laughter. But at the end, it's a sad story towards the end. And when you start hearing, like, is that some crying? And then the lights go on, and there's people just crying. And I'm like, is that a good thing? I think it's a good thing. I listened to that emotion, but at the same time, see people cry.
It was a great thing. Yeah, he did.
And it was through a dramatic performance. I guess that happened, but it was a good feeling. A lot of friends and family there that I didn't expect, and it was a sold out show. It was a lot of fun, and I've stayed with improv ever since then. And we've done a few other shows. Oh my God, did we ever the one where we did the Jelly Bean Challenge?
I don't think so.
Okay, so like our last few shows, they always do a thing at the end. It's like a crowd pleaser, like no other. Mm-hmm. But we started doing a Jelly Bean Challenge where we had to read a script from a movie, like we had different parts, and every time she rang a bell, you ever heard of those jelly beans that taste awful?
Oh yeah, like the puke flavored jelly bellies or whatever.
Yeah, so like we are up on stage, like the last one we did. Well, the first one we did was Willy Wonka in the chocolate factory, and I forgot I was a Veruca Salt's dad. But anytime a bell would ring, you would have to grab you'd be in the middle of reading, you have to grab it, and your reaction's real. And or she honked the horn, like everybody had to grab one. And I mean, the audience was so the next night, I only had to do it the first night. The next night I actually went out in the audience and watched it from back, and I'd never laughed harder in my life because I knew that feeling when you bite into something, like, oh, people had spit cups, so there was like, and we had to keep going through. We had to keep reading it, and it was hilarious. It was fun, and the audience really enjoyed it. So done that ever since. Another thing during the pandemic was I kind of went back to kept fighting with my lunch shaming. I kept working on that, and I created a website, inlunchtshaming.com, that kind of took off. Well, for the time being, it took off. The Journal News had an article on it. SIUE did like an alumni profile on it, and then somehow it got picked up to where next thing I know, it's like in Decatur and Springfield and up towards Chicago and other states. It got picked up by about 30-something different newspapers. That story of a teacher wanting to, end lunch shaming, because still a lot of people don't know what it is.
What is it? Tell everyone real quick.
If you don't know. And so if you have a student owed so much money, the school, instead of, what they would do is they would make that kid either, like in our school at one time, they had to eat it. They would give him a cheese sandwich. He wouldn't get the regular lunch. Sometimes they would make him sit in a different area. Sometimes you would have to get a stamp on your hand that said, I need lunch money. And you have to walk around the rest of the day. I did my master's on it where I interviewed people all around the country. And I mean, there's sometimes people didn't eat. They didn't eat for an entire year. And this is all affecting, these are kids in the middle. It can be grade school, up to high school. But
yeah, and it's not their fault.
It's not their fault. It's still a form of adult bullying.
Yeah.
Illinois got rid of it. Half the states have gotten rid of it, but it's still out there. So I started working on that. I was in touch actually just yesterday. Dick Durbin's camp got back to me again because I was getting more of an update on it, because he actually sits on the committee to where that bill is sitting. It's the No Shame at School Act of 2022. That's what it is. Yeah, I wrote it down. No Shame at School Act of 2022. And Dick Durbin's camp is working on it. He's actually they're in talks with Tina Smith. She's a senator from Minnesota, and she's the one that is also one of the main proponents of the bill. Seeing what they can do, but they also had some other things in the works. I didn't want to say, but it's actually really good for kids when it comes to eating, but just not that. So I'm still working on that. But during that time, I was able to focus more and got that website going. Chris Reynolds, who does my design work, knocked it out of all the stuff for Stamp Out Cancer. He does that work. Made the website. Leslie Pollard helped me with the content. She helped start Stamp Out. So it was great calling on friends. And yeah, we're still hoping to end lunch shaming nationwide. And really, I'm going to do my call to action. Go to endlunchshaming.com, and it shows you on there how you get a hold of those. And what I have is the list of senators that sit on the committee where that bill sits. They introduce a bill, and they refer it to a committee, and then it sits there and dies. And so instead of just emailing every random senator, no, those people sit on that committee, and I have a letter ready to go. You just copy and paste it.
All right.
You click on the link of those exact, which one you represents you, and it takes you exactly where you're going to send a message. Copy and paste. Done. That easy.
Boom.
And I mean, if we bug them enough, isn't that how things get changed? Maybe
you hope. I'm like, Zach. I'm sitting here thinking about you, and I asked you really a question about what you've been up to since the pandemic, and you already gave me you gave me an improv thing. You've started something there. You're continuing to do improv. You jumped right into end lunch shaming. I mean, this is why I like talking to you. You've always got, and like one more thing you don't need is, in your schedule is to come do a podcast 2 nights in a row.
I do. And I know I'm going to throw it out. I mean, okay, so I go to therapy. I do. And I was there actually before this. And this is my second time going to this one because I hadn't went in a while. She was, have you ever been diagnosed with ADHD? And I'm like, she goes, no, it's not a bad thing. She goes, actually, it could be like a superpower for people that, jump around and have different things going on. I'm like, I've never.
If it is a superpower, you have it because you are Superman in that way.
Well,
yeah.
She's like, are you organized? I'm like, not really, but I guess I'm organized on some things, just not on other things. But yeah, it's funny. She brought it up. I'm like, and now you brought, I'm like, you basically just said exactly what she just said to me an hour and a half ago.
Well, let me go back to the improv minute because I want you to really hit on something there. You guys lost someone out of your troupe, and I want you to take a moment to memorialize someone there because he meant a lot to you and your group in that town, right?
Yeah. We lost Chris Funk. And I remember when I first, he's been an icon around our town for a long time, but like it's icon. It's one of those like characters that you just see around that walk around. You think is always going to be there type of thing, but never when I was younger. Cause like he graduated actually, I think with my brother Chris, that I really know him that well. And I remember when I walked in the first time going into improv years ago, I see him sitting there and I'm like, oh, it's going to be that type of party. Because Chris Funk just brings his own, I don't know, aura with him. And so, but after that first show, like I said, I didn't come back. And still, honestly, to this day, and I even told his sister that I'm kicking myself that I didn't go do this during the pandemic because I missed out on a lot of Chris Funk time. Because when I got back, I mean, we just lost him not that long ago. So I've only been back not even a year, but like 10 months. And in that short time, I really got to see the genius of him because it's with every passing show, it got better and better. He's like a Kramer. He's like a ball of just like it's hard to explain what he brings with him. But it's funk. I mean, when he's on stage, your attention, he commands it. It's right there. There's no avoiding it, and you're so long for the ride. And I never actually got to do a skit with him on stage. We got to do one. I mean, we did like ones like group ones, but just him and I. I remember we did one during practice, and it was great. It really was. And I'm like, I can't wait to actually do this live with him. And I remember he turned around and he's like, Wags, that was pretty good. And I was like, oh my, I just got an approval. I just got his approval because I was in awe. I'm in awe of that group, that Blended Artists Imaginarium. I'm in awe of a lot of them. I really am. I mean, all of them. They're some of the nicest, most down to earth, but they're a family. And Chris, a lot of people didn't accept him for like how eccentric and how just going by his house, it, it was something to look at.
Yeah.
He even like during the pandemic, he had a word of the day that he put on this big chalkboard. That's what he did, and kids would actually go by and look, what's the word of the day from Chris Funk on this big chalkboard out in front of his house. But but it's one of those, like, once it hurt. Yeah, our group, like when it's almost like it's like when a Belushi, like when he dies, when Chris Farley,
right?
That's like losing Chris Funk.
Yeah,
and
yeah. You're out of words, I can tell, but it's not because there aren't any. It's because he was a great guy. He meant a lot to you all. He really did.
Well,
yeah,
and he was just genuine and just so nice too.
I don't think anyone in Hillsborough ever expected a job change out of Zach Wygal. Am I right?
You're right. You're right. And here I am starting a trivia company. Yeah. Is that what we're talking about? The job change?
Well, go on. Now you've got another thing. Go on. The trivia company. Right? Yeah, go ahead.
What the facts trivia? WTF trivia?
Yeah.
I mean, there is that. I really, real quick. It was something just. Dan Drake. He's our local band director for the junior high and high school. We started that out of a need. We went to a trivia, and then a month later, same guy was there using the exact or half the same questions, and we're like, they're just getting lazy. And so we decided to start a trivia because we've been to so many of them. Like, well, how hard can it be? It's really not that hard as long as you put the time into it.
Yeah, it is.
That's the thing.
It is hard because you have to put some thought into doing a trivia night.
If you want to be good,
then make it good and have it consistent. Anybody can throw a bunch of questions together, get them in the door, but they won't come back unless it was a good trivia night.
Yeah, and it has to be a balance of audio, and we make sure we have a really good presentation on a projector, and just anything we can do to try to make that audience just. And we have to make the questions. We make sure there's easy ones, middle of the road, hard ones. Yeah. Because I was tired of going to trivias where people were getting 100 out of 100. That should never happen. Mm-hmm. Sorry, it shouldn't. And so I think we found our niche. We did our first show for Jessica Furness and her girls, her cheerleaders. We did it at the actually both our shows have been at the Lodge on Main, downtown Hillsborough, former Moose Lodge.
Right.
Jimmy Hewitt. I love that place now. Oh, it's awesome. They got bingo there now. People are lining up down the street every Thursday. I'm not joking. Down the street early at like 5 a.m. It doesn't start till 7 or 5 at night to go for bingo there. But anyway, we did we've done 2 trivias there now actually, and both of them seem to work really well. We're getting kudos from people that go to trivia. That's actually what we want to hear.
Right.
Is the ones that go to a lot of them, and they said Lisa Billingsley, a former coworker of mine, she wins trivia. They're a traveling trivia team, but they got like 86 right out of 100. I'm like, well, we're doing something right here. They're not getting that 100. And she said she liked that there was some challenging aspects. So
yeah,
it's been fun. Yeah, but WTF trivia, what the facts trivia. We'll do it again, but it's not going to be all the time. But it's fun though. So that's the job we're talking about, right?
Are we? Or is there one more job change that we need to discuss? Because this is the one I was hinting at, right? You what, about 6 months ago out of?
Oh, no, about 5. It was in October.
October. Okay. So 4 or 5, you made a big career change. So maybe I'll say it that way, that I don't think a lot of people that know you and in and around Hillsborough thought would ever happen. Tell us why. Tell us why you left and where you went.
Yeah, so I was an educator at Hillsborough Junior High School. That's a special education teacher. And when you do a career, I did that later on in life. I was around 29 or 30 years old when I remember I was working at Wells Fargo. I just had something in my life happen to where was going through a breakup, all those things. I'm like, okay, I need to change something. And I remember I was like, I'm not sitting in a cubicle anymore. And I thought back to when I was substitute teaching, went back, became a teacher. Actually, Stamp Out started when I was still in 2011. Stamp Out started, and here I am. That's how long ago. But I became a teacher, and I did it for all the right reasons. We're in it for the outcome, not the income. I even had a shirt that said that. And things went along, and I honestly thought I was going to retire as a teacher because you start, a career later on. But things start to wear on you after a while. There's a few things, and I didn't touch on actually before. Getting my master's actually didn't help because it made me started looking at more things. I don't know, like outside world type things. I actually catered my master's in case I wanted to go into a corporate world. Really,
Mm-hmm.
I didn't want to get one administration. I didn't want to be a principal. So when I did diversity and equity in education, that's something that actually would transfer over to someplace else if I wanted it to. But then a pandemic happened, and that was just like it's almost like the age teachers. Like it added 10 years onto our life because I thought we did great. I mean, a drop of a hat, we had to change everything that we knew that we were doing and change formats just to try to bring it to kids. And it wasn't always effective. I mean, we're learning along the way. I mean, some kids didn't even show up, a lot of times online classes, and you had to keep going along. But we did, my team was awesome at the junior high. I felt like we did our best. And when it came back to in person, I remember I didn't miss a day that year because I didn't want to. I didn't want to be the reason why the doors weren't open. And so I think the kids need to be back at school. But the society started changing a little bit. Maybe I just listened too much to
the noise,
the vocal minority.
Yeah.
But I remember, there's actually one time that I was they used to drive. We used to drive around to see if they'd see teachers' cars, like at Opera House, like that. Like, can't be up. You can't socialize because. But I remember I was at a concert one time. I was actually at a nerd show down in St. Louis. It was the first time they had it at the new. First time I went to that. Oh, the place right next to Riverport, Music Park, St. Louis Music Park. And so I'm there, and it's an outdoor show. They didn't have any restrictions there. It was outdoor. We were actually on the way back, and I took a picture with my friends there. And I remember I got a picture posted with me with a clown emoji saying, "Put the mask on the children," says Mr. Wygal. But like directives that weren't even mine. But I was getting called out for being in an outdoor show without a mask on, which wasn't required there, and with my friends. And I'm like, this is what they think of teachers now. I can't even go. Like I didn't ask for that. I didn't.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like we're famous. I was trying to be a normal human being. So that happened. But a lot of things else with society. Like I mean, there's just, are we indoctrinating kids? I had someone thought that I was doing that as I bet you are as a math teacher. I'm like, no, one Obama plus two Obama is not equal to Karl Marx. I don't teach my students that way. I mean, I'm a special education teacher that, yes, I do have a math, all those things.
Yeah.
But I mean, I was also as far as I could go with my job. If I was going to be a principal, end of the road, your teacher, it's not like you can move up to really anything else unless you want to coach. Basically, unless you want to give your life to all day and night and do things, that's as far as you go. It's not like you can really move up anything. But also, there's been a growing problem for teachers for a very long time with teachers leaving the profession. I mean, every year there's just a bigger and bigger gap of the biggest shortage ever. And I didn't see any end in sight of that happening, especially as a special education teacher. We're the hardest to find. And when you start seeing even more work coming your way, like, okay, so I'm going to have more in my case, so I'm going to have more paperwork coming my way, and nothing's being done to try to curb that. Yeah, they're trying to get some newer teachers. They're trying new initiatives there. They're not really doing anything anywhere to try to keep, I think, current teachers. I guess there are trying some things, but not enough. And finally, you get frustrated because as someone that likes to solve problems, there's nothing I could do unless I'd be a complainer.
Yeah.
Or like it's the school board, that makes those changes and stuff. I'm just kind of at their mercy, and it became more and more frustrating for me with that. So I finally just realized that, and the only thing that took me long enough to get out was I just thought, would my town and stuff turn on me for leaving that job? Because I think some people think once you're a teacher, you should stay there forever. How dare you be greedy and want to do other things? And on that note, I mean, I went to Alaska this summer with my family, took a cruise. I want to do more of those things.
Yeah.
And so when that happened, I, I just realized it wasn't my hill to die on. I didn't create that problem, and uh, I'm not going to die on that hill. That just kind of each year, kind of like just kept digging into me more and more, and I knew I had to get out.
Yeah.
And I had friends getting a hold of me, saying I should have done this years ago. And thinking back, I don't want to trade away like any of my memories, but man, if I would have known just like how my job is going to be now, the stress levels, yeah, I wish I'd have known that was going to be a long time ago.
I don't know though. I mean, what that became built you. You wouldn't have done lunch shaming without that. You wouldn't have had perspectives you've had about a lot of things that you do without that.
You're right.
You know, so I mean, I know what you're saying, but ultimately it's led you to the person you are now. And so let's get to that. Where are you at? Where are you working?
I work for the Illinois Department of Corrections. Still as an educator. I'm an educator for the Illinois Department of Corrections in Taylorville. I've tried a couple years ago to get one at Graham, but it's hard to get on with the state. And I applied actually for both of them again. There was openings this past year. I remember it was November and December. And it takes a while. I don't know if you know, the state isn't the quickest sometimes. And this summer I did the interview for Taylorville. And on the first day of school this year, this is like 6 weeks after my interview, I
thought it was over.
I was ready. Okay, time to start my next year, my 10th year of teaching here at the junior high. And that very first day, I remember it was like around 10 a.m., a couple hours in, I get the email saying, hey, we're offering you a job to prison. And oh man.
So what are you teaching in the prison? How does that, you've got students. What are you doing?
I have students. Okay, so I'm taking over for a guy right now. But eventually I'll have my own classroom doing just what they call the basic education. But for now, I'm taking over a guy that's on paternity leave, Jared Cook. He's an arm wrestler. He really is. He goes to tournaments, Vegas. Actually, the first time when he told me that, I was like, oh, over the top. He goes, you say that. His dad was an arm wrestler, and his dad was like a background in Over the Top.
Over the Top like, with Sylvester Stallone as an arm wrestler.
Yeah, Lincoln Hawk. Actually, no, I think I said Lincoln Hawk. I go, so you're Lincoln Hawk. He knew the reference.
Oh man, the rabbit hole you can go down. Go back to the prison. Go back to DOC. Go.
I trained with him for a bit, and now that he's gone, what he does is GED. So I'm helping guys get their GED that are there. I have one class that I have advanced adult basic education, and that's guys that doesn't have the grades just yet to get into GED, but it's kind of like a feeder for them into there. And then I also do what they call TABE testing. Every person that comes in has to be tested. Guys will test in other classes, try to move up to other classes, and they have goals based on it. They get good time based on it. It's a whole system there. But half my day is teaching. The other half is testing guys. I also do the GED testing as well. And it's education, but just in a different setting.
Something you told me before was the students want to be there.
They do. And I don't get me wrong. I had some go-getting students all throughout my career, but the ones the class I'm in are now, like all of them come in, and all of them are actually, there's sometimes in my classes where because they work on a computer-based thing for GD. You can hear a pin drop in there for an hour. You wouldn't hear it's that silent. They're just that busy. They're that focused, and it's super respectful. I've never had a student yell at me or even come close to doing that. And honestly, if that happened, there'll be a couple guys in there that'll step in real quick anyway. Like, really, I mean, there'll be a couple inmates that will be like, no, you don't mess with Mr. Wygal. So like, it'd be, I'm not even worried. It's weird. I'm not like scared of my safety, which you would think first going in, like, oh man, you're gonna work in a prison. You have those preconceived notions from watching movies, from watching television shows. And don't get me wrong, there are some like the live action ones you see, but I'm in a minimum security, so it's not like the most hardened criminals there.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's kind of, it almost is kind of like a mini, kind of like campus in a way.
What's you went over there. What's the thing that you've discovered that you didn't expect that is like, wow, this is nice? What would that be?
That was well, good and bad. The food, the food, and it's weird. I mean, because I used to talk much, and it probably wasn't a good thing because I that's what manifested it. It's a freshman 15, maybe a freshman 20 there, and I'm not the only one that says that. I'll ask another correctional officer, like, "Hey, what's for lunch?" He goes, "I don't know. I don't go there anymore." Why? He's like, "Because I got too big." It's good. Yeah, everybody knows. It's weird. Like not every prison's like this, but Taylorville's just known for having good food. Other people, when they're dropping, if they have a transfer, they'll come in and get food from other institutions because they know it's that good, and it is.
So
I've been there.
this isn't like The Office where what's prison like? Prison Mike, and he's like the gruel, the gruel.
The gruel.
Right?
Yes, the gruel.
It's not you're not eating gruel.
No, we're not. We're not. I mean, some things can be suspect, I guess, but for the most part, I mean, it's good stuff. The dessert though is really good, and that's so. I've already made my piece this week that I'm done with all that. Like, I'm back to knowing that okay, I can't eat a lot of that stuff. But it was fun while it lasted.
Conversely,
Really
what was the biggest eye opener that you were like, oh, this is what I was expecting? Is there anything?
Yeah, there is the so when you have students, you also still realize they're individuals in custody. And I remember at first, I'd be curious, like, okay, well, why are they here? And then I'm like, I should have, figured, because I don't want it to. I still want to, be an educator. That's my job. I'm not the judge. I'm not the jury. They've already went through all that. They already know they're in prison. I don't need to, remind them of that all the time. So I just try not to look at that aspect and focus on, okay, if I'm just here to teach, that's what I'm going to do. The rest of it, I don't need that background noise.
Yeah.
To see like why are they there? No. And so I did that distancing yourself between those two it's kind of helped for me.
Yeah. Let's pivot. Right. We've
Okay.
gone through we've gone through a lot of change in Zach's life. The one thing that hasn't changed is that poster behind me right there. Stamp Out Cancer's coming right around the corner, brother. We've got a big change this year for Stamp Out Cancer. Talk to our audience about what's different.
Well, yeah, our format. I mean, we went from celebrity bartending to Dancing with the Stars to lip sync battle, and it was this year that we decided, let's change it up because you don't want to do the same thing over and over. I've actually watched other fundraisers kind of go by the wayside because they thought that they just keep, well, it's always worked. We don't want to be that way. We want to be fresh. And I thank my committee for that, for wanting to be that way too. And so we went to a game show.
We're going
to be doing a game show. We're going to be doing a game show.
So let's back this up. You're going to do one game show, like you're going to play Wheel of Fortune or what?
It will be a game show. We're leaving it at that.
Is it a show of shows?
It is going to be a spectacle of awesomeness. But we don't. Our teams, we don't want to practice on things. We just want them to show up and be like, okay, this is what's going to be happening. So, and it's actually at first we thought we were going to be the ones putting it on, that we were going to make Plinko sets and whatever else, and but that's way too much work for it. Even though it'd be fun to try to come up with your own game show, and I'm not doubting my team's ability, but really stretch us in. So we actually hired. We have coming in from St. Louis because I have an awesome agency, Body Dot Entertainment, that I've been now working with for our relationships now goes back 10 years. And when I told them, well, one, I always get the bands through them, which our band this year is No Diggity.
No Diggity.
Super pumped for them. They're going to be doing a lot of 90s and 2000s R&B, some hip hop, some little bit, they have a horn section. Really excited about that. They have a horn section.
Can't ever go wrong with the horn section.
You can't go wrong with the horn section. And I know one of the guys in it, Jimmy Mano, for years, but I haven't met him in person. He was an agent for the band Clockwork, blah, blah, blah. And I got the blessing from Steve Ewing.
From the Urge.
So, from the Urge, I ran into him and his wife, Beth, at the Tears for Fears concert. They're actually ended up sitting behind us. That's actually where their seats were this summer. And he knows who Jimmy Mano is. And I was like, Steve, am I doing the right thing by trying to book this band? He's like, Zach, they'll be great. I think they're going to be awesome for your event. So Steve Ewing approves. then they got to be good.
So in the past, your teams were, as you said, they were celebrity bartenders. They danced or they lip synced.
Yeah.
So does each team get their own game show, or is this still part of the mystery?
They'll all be competing.
Okay.
And they're all going to be competing, and they'll all have a chance to win money to add to their the totals that they've already brought in.
Gotcha.
So
gotcha. Okay.
Every little bit helps.
So let's talk about the teams. You've already made social media announcements, but shout out these teams. Give me a little background on who we've got competing this year.
Okay, so hailing from Nokomis. No, we have Denny and Tina Umberger, team Unbelievable. Tina's a nurse, anesthetist.
I'm not going to correct you because I probably couldn't do it either.
Denny owns a construction company, and I'm going to touch on just like one event that all of them have coming. They have donkey basketball actually coming up on the 13th. Yeah, at the Nokomis gym.
I haven't seen donkey basketball in 45 years when I was a kid in Staunton.
Yeah, and they said they're going to get a Wygal on a donkey, but there's a weight limit, so it's not going to be me. So either someone else has to do that. And finally, this comes in handy. Yeah. So hopefully they get another Wygal on there for that. That's March 13th. All of these events you can find at stampoutcancer.org. All of those things, or our Facebook page. We have Jennifer and Cody Gudgel from Team Gudgel Ranch Saloon. They are the owners of the Gudgel Ranch Saloon Event Center and Whiskey Lounge. One of their cool things, they actually just came out a couple of days ago. They're doing a month-long 24-bar scavenger hunt. We're talking, it goes to Collinsville to everywhere to past to Carlinville to everywhere in between. I was looking at 24 different establishments, and all of them have different clues. You have a month to visit all them.
That's crazy.
And to get, and basically every weekend if you hit it, a few up, while you're going somewhere, and to see who actually can, be the winner of that scavenger hunt. 24 locations. I've never seen anything like that before.
Stamp Out Cancer is a season, and the season keeps giving.
Oh yeah, we have Brian Samantha Hitchings. Brian, a lot of knew him when he was Butch. They knew him when he was a state's attorney. But we haven't had a Raymond team, and even though he doesn't live in Raymond anymore, he's originally from the Raymond Farmersville area. We've never had one, except for one time. Sorry, we had one, but it was 10 years ago. And I remember even going to speak at their Kiwanis at the Hunter Green, and they still had no clue. And it's not about Stamp Out Cancer. They don't have no clue what the Montgomery County Cancer Association is, and that's where all our money goes. And that they can be using that money in Raymond. I mean, we want people in Raymond to know that we're here for them, that they can use our services. So yeah, Brian is now the attorney. He works for the Attorney of Illinois Commerce Commission. Samantha is at Dometics. She manages the customer and tech services. One of the unique things they have coming up is actually going to be a Pack the Place at the drive-in on their opening night on March 16th. And they're actually looking to have, I think, things going on throughout the day. But the drive-in, them getting on board, we've never had an event at the drive-in. So that's awesome. And then our Hillsborough team, Amber Callagher and Paula Bartz. I graduated high school with Amber. And it's the first time we've actually had someone for my graduating class besides when I did it on the first one. But she works for Bank of Hillsborough. Paula works for the state of Illinois. And it was weird because we actually had another Hillsborough team that had to bow out maybe 5 days before making the announcement. Of course, I'm instantly panic mode, but for about 4 minutes when I saw that text. There was a group text that I got from one of our team members. And I got back, I got it. I got it already. And I don't know why I never thought of it. I don't know why it hit me. But I was like, I know who should do it. And when I text them, they're interested. So we got them on board. They have something coming up, a murder mystery, but it's called Meowder Mystery. And that's coming up on March 8th. And I'm bringing that one up because I'm in it. I'm in it.
Of course you are. Is this the Improv group?
It's the Improv group, or Blended Artists Imaginarium.
Yeah.
And so, yes, and it is about a cat lady that got murdered. I play a veterinarian because, of course, but the type of veterinarian, you're just going to have to wait and see. But it's cool. Yeah, you get food and you're going to get a lot of laughs.
And their team name is Rock, Paper, Sisters, correct?
Rock, Paper, Sisters, yes. And I forget, Brian Hitchings, I forget. Team Hitch Up.
Hitch Up, Team Hitch Up.
Yeah.
You got these 4 teams, a lot of great events, but this year could be a major milestone year for SOC, right?
It can be, and there's no way of like you might hit $1 million. We might. We're a little over $900,000 raised so far, and it's just crazy to think about because that first event we ever did was $10,800, which was awesome. It was amazing, and we thought we were really onto something. But for it to take off like this, I never would have seen that coming. And right now it's almost like kind of notch like, oh yeah, we might hit $1 million, but I don't know how I'm going to handle it if that happens because you don't even see that in cities sometimes.
Yeah.
You don't. There's something truly special. It's not just the community we live in. I mean, it's the teams. The teams throughout the years. We have over 100 alumni now for Stamp Out. Yes.
Wow.
Over 100.
I guess that kind of makes sense. Yeah, but yeah, that's something to think about. Yeah.
Over 100, and we actually have a special Facebook page just for them because every year we add more to our alumni page. They get an alumni patch whenever they order a shirt free of charge from us. It says SOC alumni on there, and with the help of them because they'll mentor other teams sometimes. Other teams that don't go to them for advice, what works and stuff, and it's just a big family.
Yeah. You hit on something a little bit ago, but I don't want to skate over it. And it's that all the money goes to the Montgomery County Cancer Association. You hit about it when you're talking about the Raymond team hitch up. Yeah. Tell me why it's important that it goes to the MCCA.
They are the greatest nonprofit around. And I'm not just saying that because I'm on the board, but I've watched them. It's like they're miracle workers. So normally when you give money to a nonprofit, there's people with salaries and blah, 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 blah. They kicked out the American Cancer Society because that money was never here anyway. It didn't stay here. So the MCCA, what they do first and foremost is they give direct patient financial assistance. And so because bills will add up whenever you going through treatments, I mean, you might be, out of work for a while. And so that helps big time. But also they give scholarships that students have to earn their hours. They don't just get a scholarship for, writing a good essay. No, they have to volunteer. So we're hopefully building future volunteers and also future leaders. They give mileage reimbursement because there's a lot of treatments that goes along with this. But my favorite part of it all is sometimes people like I know with my family, we no problem getting my dad in treatment when he was going through. But there's some people that go through cancer alone, and that's my favorite part. Is they will give you a ride. They will sit with you during treatment, and you'll give you a ride back. And that you can't put a price tag on that at all. I mean, that's something that no big nonprofit does. They'll just throw money at a thing and saying, "Well, we'll help. Here's some money to help with bills." But to not have to face cancer alone, I mean, at least for that time being, for maybe that 4 hours or 5 hours you're out, to know that you're not facing cancer alone is
you're speechless, man. Awesome. It's okay. We get it. We feel your emotion and we know what it means. And if somebody's, here's what I want to say. Most of the people listening to this know what Stamp Out Cancer is all about. In case it's a first timer watching Zach Wygal, what is the name Stamp Out Cancer? Why? What is it? What does it mean?
Back when I talked about during the first Stamp Out, I was becoming a teacher. Well, I was also bartending. So I was bartending at night, going to class by day. And I remember I went to Leslie Pollard and I was like, my friend at the time, when she lived around here and she put on events. And I was like, hey, I just want to do a night some night where I donate all my tips to, the MCCA. She's like, wags, we can make this bigger. And that's when the celebrity bartending. But it was when we formed a committee, we had to think of a name. And it just kind of came quickly. My father, mailman in town, in 2006 passed away from a brain tumor. But as a mailman, his nickname was Stamps. There is a no-brainer, Stamp Out Cancer. And but once we went through the initial year of that. After that, though, we want to let other people tell their story. And so it isn't, yes, it's an honor of my father, from my, perspective and my family, the son that's on the board with me. But it really is letting other people tell and honor people, that they've lost and to give, to put in, the money in their name.
Right.
And that's the other thing is just giving them that platform to be able to do that. I do have to say, and I was actually thinking about this today, I have to give a big shout out to Chris Reynolds. He was when we decided in the third year to brand it. I said, hey, we should instead of let's have a brand basically. And he knew what I meant. He's always every year been able to pick out what the design of the poster and shirt should look like out of my head. I just have like sometimes an idea, but I'm not an artist at all. And it was him that I remember when he came that crooked stamp, the black and yellow, the crooked stamp. And now, I mean, you could be if you live around this area and you just see that image from a mile away, you don't even need to see what the words say. You know what that means.
Everybody knows what it is.
Cancer.
Everybody knows what it is. Yeah.
And that was all his doing there. So I do have to give him a shout out. And still to this day, you see the poster behind you, and he's able to just change things up.
Yeah.
To go with it each year. And we've been friends since high school. I mean, I was the best man at his wedding. We went to college together, lived together for a bit.
Tell me about the rest of your team.
There are some. No, we have an amazing team. I have my sisters, Renee Laughlin and Dana Holzhauser, which I love having them because they keep me grounded. They know sometimes neurotics can come out of me, and they're just a calming factor. I'm not gonna lie, having my sisters on there, and they're so good. They really are, especially when it comes to silent auction. My brother Chris, he's a little bit still actually one of the newest ones to it. He always helped out the day before setting up tables. But Stacy, his wife, used to be on the board of this. Took a step back. Chris hopped on, and he's the one that gets he covers Nokomis. He's a UPS driver in Nokomis. He blankets that. I mean, we already have our silent auction things out there. He's really good at finding cool places online to get stuff from. Tickets from most random events. He just on his days off, he'll just sit there for hours. I'll send them an email, and maybe if 1 out of 10 stick, that's still more money we're getting raised. We have Kelsey Flack. So this goes into actually the rest of our people in the name are former participants of Stamp Out. Kelsey won it, and her and Emily Zimmerman won Stamp Out, I think, in 2019. That was the year with, I think it was them, or were they 2017? I think 2019. I forgot which one. But no, I think they were 2017. Or maybe they were 6. Oh my God, she's going to kill me. But I know Joe Dirt was the band. I can always remember the band that was with them. But yeah, Kelsey, she covers our social media. Oh, she just had a boy, baby boy Everett, and so she's social media that is perfect for her because being a mom, she's able to.
She's got it covered. She's got it
covered, and is grown into be one of my best friends through this experience. We have Corey Evans. Corey Evans was competed with his wife back in the year before Kelsey, so I think it was. I'm going to give up on the years.
Just stop. Name the people.
Corey, and he's a State Farm, or not State Farm. Sorry, he's going to kill me. Country Financial. He was a State Farm. Now he's a Country Financial, who is our sponsor for Stamp Out Cancer. Country Financial. They cover every place in the county. Corey was on there. Shelly Hill competed, and she gets everything from Nokomis. She lives in Georgia now, but she still flies back, and she still finds our participants. She's still helping everything when she can. Still making meetings. And the last we have Teresa Priddle. She's also like one of the newest ones, and she's from Litchfield, EMT. Works with Station 3. She helps us find people from Litchfield, and just a ball of fun. Actually, all of them are fun. I mean, they're family.
Yeah.
At this time of year, we don't only hang around all the time.
Yeah.
But this time of year, we love it because a month we're always doing stuff together, and we realize it's the team is like not what people would expect from the outside looking in. Like, how does it work? And that's what makes it work. Is they all bring something different to the table, and it just works. And I couldn't imagine my life without them.
Yeah, I can't imagine it without you either. And what you do. I mean, really, everything. It's the reason I know you. Right. It really is. I mean, because my band, Retro Rocket, shout out. Yeah. We would play a lot of the lead up events. We're not this year, but in past years we had. Yeah, we were on the float in the parade for many years. So we were always felt like a big part of what you had going on. But it's always been an honor to be a part of this and work with you however we could. And it's been great. So. So
we love Retro Rocket.
we love you guys too. It's been fun. So, but you only got a couple of days left if you want to book us before SOC. let's move.
Not me, it's the team.
I know it's not you. I'm talking about the participants
Yeah.
out there.
Yes.
So
Yes.
so let's try to land this plane, Zach. I know I've had you on for a while tonight, and a couple of the things that I've started to do, or I'm going to start to do, and you're the first recipient of something. I'm going to ask the last guest to ask my next guest the question, and my past guest was Brad Skirtich, and Brad sent me a question to ask you, and Brad wants to know, what was your favorite memory from the school funding project? Tell us what that was, and then your memory.
Yeah, so that's how I met Brad. I've been friends. Well, it was actually the very first Stamp Out Cancer. There was a meeting at the country club to have us meet this guy named Andy Menard. He was going to be running for office, and I remember I was telling him about what Stamp Out was. And next thing I know, he actually gave us I think for a silent auction. No, for the next year he did. He actually attended like the first 3 or 4. But Andy is a big champion when it comes to schools and getting downstate funding. And so he started the whole trying to get equitable funding for schools downstate to where, like, we have a place in Chicago that was spending like $20,000 per pupil, and we're doing like $2,000. And they didn't need as much money coming in. They needed more going downstate. And he was working on a better formula for that. Took years. But in the meantime, we had to educate the public on it. And so he had most of it that was helping with it was superintendents and principals. But then Andy called upon me to ask if I would come speak at some events from like a teacher's perspective on what, how that money could help, having that little extra. And I'm pretty sure it was Brad. I think I was sitting next to him. I met him. I was doing one in Vandalia, speaking at the school there. So it was like a town hall for Vandalia. And but that's actually not my favorite memory.
What is your favorite memory? That's what he wants to know.
Yeah, so my favorite memory was actually with another superintendent, Dan Cox, who was Staunton superintendent at the time. And we did a teletown hall in Springfield in Andy Menard's office. And so I remember I came up there after school one day. And Dan was there, and it was actually just me, him, and Andy. Yeah, Dan, Andy, and then they opened it up, the question, and there was thousands of people on this teletown hall, and it was cool sitting in a room with. I felt, talk about imposter syndrome. I'm sitting there with Andy Menard, who's this champion for getting us going. Dan Cox, I think he's now in Rochester. But dude, Dan Cox he's a rock star. Sturtich knows him. Sturtich is a rock star too. But that whole, I don't know, that sitting at the Capitol, doing that. And saying like, okay, I'm a part of this. This is cool. That's my favorite. And then Sturtich is second. We graduated together.
That's right.
Kind of.
Yeah.
He was getting his doctorate the same day I was getting my master's.
Yeah.
So
same day my daughter graduated too.
Same day your daughter. Yeah.
Zach, my buddy, I don't know what else to cover with you. You're always one of the best. You're gonna be back. You know you will. I can't do this long term without you. We just need to come up with a little segment you have every time. What do you got in mind? You got something in mind?
Well, no, but I remember I had this before. I do have to before we go. So I had a coworker just a couple of days ago. She was like, "Hey, you have an idea of any podcast? Give me an idea for a podcast, looking for a new one." And it's funny because then the next day I come back and I'm like, "Hey, I was just on a podcast." Like, of course you were. It's weird. The people I work with, I've like slowly. You're like, oh yeah, I do this, and then it's slowly to hear about more and more. And they're like, wait, what don't you do?
Yes.
And so she's like, of course you did on a podcast. She said, I wanted to listen to a new podcast. And what did you do? You went on one. I'm like, well, that's not exactly. It's like I called them up. So I do for my coworkers, because I know at least some are going to be watching. I want to give a shout out to Jenna, BP, Cody, Christine, and then Brooksy down the hall. Yes, I do podcasts too.
Yes, you do.
So I did want to give them a shout out. Yeah, what should we do, man?
That could be a good listener question. Send them in.
I told you before. We could watch back movies we thought were good when we were a kid. That's not really a podcast.
It could be
a reaction.
There's a Rewatchables podcast that I'm a big fan of, but we can't do that. Those are the best rewatchables. We'd have to have the bad rewatchables, something like that. But
through that pain.
But no, we'll do something. We've got to. It's meant to. When you talk about somebody says something to you and then they go, of course you do. Right. That's the way I feel a lot of times. Right. If everything. Oh, you're a fireman. Oh, now you're a podcaster. You're in a band. And I was talking to one of my friends. He's actually a relative. The other day, Larry, my cousin Larry. He goes, what do you got next? I go, I'm thinking about becoming an ordained minister. And he goes, of course you will. Why? Because then you can. That's really the only reason.
John,
you are.
What do you think I'm going to say? I'm an ordained
minister. I knew it.
I've only done one wedding. But yes, I'm working on exorcisms now. So I think there might be some money in that if I get some demons out of places.
Well, you know,
I am entertained. It was a long time ago.
Where you work, you might get a side job there. But buddy, I don't know what else to say. I mean, there's we're not even going to talk about baseball cards, but we're not even going to go into it. Well, we got a reason.
That could be a whole show.
That could be a whole show.
You know, that's we got material for days if you want to be.
Zach, my brother, thank you for coming on. Well, how do we end this show?
Peace out.
That's right. That's Zach. I'm John. Peace out.